Hey, welcome back to room 237. This is John. Welcome back to another movie review. Originally, I was going to do another collection and discussion of Tim Burton. Been on a bit of a Tim Burton kick lately. So I've been just buying a few more and also just rewatching a lot of movies I haven't seen in a while. And I watched this the other night and I thought I have enough to say that I could probably just put it in its own video. And that is Edward Scissorhands, which is about as classic Tim Burton as you can get. Came out in 1990, starring Johnny Depp, Winona Ryder. Notable for a lot of things. I mean, one, it's perfect Tim Burton aesthetic. If you ever want to show someone a Tim Burton movie, this is a great example. This was the first of 9 famous collaborations between Johnny Depp and Tim Burton. And it really is a great movie. I grew up with it. I first saw it when I was a young kid. I think I was like 6 or 7. It was on cable. My parents told me about it. And I watched it and I thought it was great. I've always loved this movie. It is a love story. It has a bunch of everything in it. I mean, it has a love story in it. Has a bit of Frankenstein in it, which I love. Big Frankenstein fan. I don't really need to go into the plot. I mean, this movie is so big. Most people have either seen it or know about it. It's just one of those movies that everyone knows it. So it's probably going to be a short video, but that's fine. I need to make shorter videos anyway. I do know that this is Tim Burton's favorite of his works because it's the most personal, and it makes sense. Tim Burton grew up in Burbank, California, which I guess sort of looks like the town that's in this movie, but I'm sure this is exaggerated. And you know, he kind of was this guy. He was kind of gothy looking. He always did have that crazy black hair. He still kind of does. Pale kid. He wasn't into sports. He wasn't into anything. He liked to be in his backyard and make creepy movies, watch horror movies. He was a bit of a weirdo. And this movie deals with isolation and acceptance, self-discovery. So I think this movie was just Tim Burton kind of coming to terms with who he was and really accepting himself. Danny Elfman's score. This is also Danny Elfman's favorite score he's ever done. Also classic Burton. I don't know what it is about a lot of, especially the early 90s Danny Elfman music in Burton's films, but it almost has like a children's choir kind of sound. Like whether it be this or a Batman Returns. I want to say there's some of that in Nightmare Before Christmas. I don't really remember. I should, but you know, it's just this guy who was created by this inventor played by Vincent Price. This was Vincent Price's last major role. A horror legend. I love Vincent Price. Who lives up in this Gothic mansion castle on top of a mountain. This sweet lady finds him and brings him down to this pastel colored suburbia. And, you know, he falls in love with the daughter, played by Winona Ryder, who has this asshole boyfriend, played by Anthony Michael Hall. And pretty much, you know, he wins the heart of the townspeople, but then he becomes the monster and they chase him out of town. And then, of course, at the end, you find out he never stopped loving her and he keeps making all these figurines. One thing I never understood, though, which I guess it's one of those things that it needed to happen because of the movie. Like, Edward Scissorhands, he was created by an inventor. Why did the inventor start with Scissorhands? Why was that even part of the process? I guess it's one of those sweater thread theories where once you pull that thread by asking that question, it all falls apart. If anyone else had made this movie, you could question it. But Tim Burton and Johnny Depp, they make it work so well, and they make such a great movie that you kind of don't think about it. You kind of forgive and forget. But it is something I always thought about. Like, why did he start with the scissors? Johnny Depp does a great job at playing very innocent and shy. Like when he first gets to the house and the woman's showing him around, and he's kind of like looking at stuff, and he taps it, and he has this reaction like that's what that is. They're some of the most beautiful shots Tim Burton has ever done in this. When they try to rob Anthony Michael Hall's house, which I always thought Anthony Michael Hall set him up because he was jealous. After rewatching it, I guess it was an accident. But, the cops show up because the alarms go off and they leave him there. And when he comes out of the... Shit on the screen. When he comes out of the house, the camera's behind him and the police have their spotlights on him. And you hear him say, like, raise your weapons. And so he's walking out like this. And just the way the light is shining around him, and there's like that children's choir-y Danny Elfman music. As he looks like a fucking psycho. He's walking up, like, holding up these huge ass knives. Just, even as a kid, that shot always stuck with me, and that's still one of my favorite things I've ever seen in any of his movies. I've thought about this a few times in Tim Burton's films. I don't know if it's just me being pessimistic or what, but I always thought that there was always like a pessimistic thing to take away from his movies. Like for this, I always thought like, if you're different, you should just stay where you are because no one will ever accept you. Maybe that's not the message you should take away from this. That's still kind of what I think. Why bother with people? But also, I think he kind of still has a bit of a pettiness towards his suburban childhood. Because he does a great job at making suburbia look like a cesspool of assholes. I mean, the Boggs family that he lives with are nice people. Especially the dad, played by Alan Arkin. Which I love Alan Arkin as an actor. I think he's a great guy. But, even the first time, like when they first get into town, when she shows up with him, all the housewives are calling each other like, did you see Peg? Did you see Peg pull in? Did she say anything about a guest coming over? Who is that guy she's with? Did she say anything to you? No, she hasn't called me. Okay, call Karen, then call me. I'll call Sharon, I'll call you. It's just, mind your own fucking business. All these fucking housewives. Maybe it was intended for comedy. Or I've never lived in an area like that. I don't know if that's really how housewives and that kind of life works. Because then there's that shot of time has passed and all the wives are standing on the corner in front of their house. So it's like evening and all the cars with all the husbands coming home from work and they all disperse into their homes. Then it shows the morning when they all leave to go to work and all the housewives come back out and go back to where they were. And like the housewives show up and they're just like, oh, when you could introduce us to your guest. What time was that barbecue you said you were going to have? And she's like, barbecue? What? The barbecue, you said about 5 o'clock? Yeah, okay. And then one's like, I'll bring the coleslaw. I'll bring the salad. It's just like, ugh. I mean, I hate people to begin with, but when you just make it these desperate fucking housewives, Tim Burton did a great job at making you hate them. But of course, Edward, call him his full name. Edward, he wins the hearts of them all because he does this like topiary stuff with his hand. There's great shots of him like with shit flying around him. So he does all their hedges, like animals and dinosaurs and people. And then he starts doing haircuts, so they all have like these weird Whoville haircuts. And then he does dog grooming, so their dogs all look weird. So he becomes like a local little celebrity. And there's this one woman who, like, I guess she's the most desperate of housewives, this one redheaded woman. She's the kind of woman that will call a plumber or a repairman just to get attention from him and then have sex with him. So the idea is to get Edward his own a beauty salon. So she's showing him the salon, and she tries to seduce him out back, but it doesn't work. And I guess the idea is because whether he rejected her or because he got caught by the police trying to rob that house, maybe a mixture of the two. We see all the housewives calling each other again. And, they're just saying like, well, can you believe he practically raped Joyce? It's a miracle she got away from him. Talking about how much of a monster he is and how they turn on him. And then, of course, you get that wonderful scene where he's doing the ice sculpture and Winona Ryder dancing with the music. And then the ending where he just fucking snaps. Which, we've all been there. Especially if you would have to deal with this kind of society. I was the oddball growing up. I was the weird kid. I knew what it was, not to this extreme, but just being fed up of having to put up people's bullshit. That's why I related to it so much. They chase him out of the town like Frankenstein. Excuse me. Like at the end of Frankenstein, they chase the monster. At the end. Side tangent. Because the next film I'm going to talk about, this is actually relevant. I just slipped and called him Frankenstein. It's the monster. The movie's called Frankenstein. The doctor is Frankenstein. The character by Boris Karloff is the monster. It's a huge pet peeve when people call him Frankenstein, but I just slipped up and did it. So, tiny tangent. But then you find out, she never saw him again, and the town thinks he's dead, so he can never come back down. But then I was also thinking, how did he get the ice sculptures up there? Or the blocks of ice to make the ice sculptures at the end? How does he get shit up there that he needs? How is he able to grow all these flowers and plants? I mean, the mansion's a factory, but it's derelict. But I don't know. It's one of those. It falls apart if you think about it. But the movie's so good that you forgive it. So yeah, Edward Scissorhands, great movie, great example of what Tim Burton can do. This is another one of his, this is his most personal one. He's done movies like Batman or like Sleepy Hollow or Ed Wood. He's done a bunch of different things. But, ones like Beetlejuice, this, Nightmare Before Christmas, which he didn't direct. But, those are really where you get to see inside the mind of Tim Burton. And it's wonderful. It's a great world to be. And, if you really love horror, or not really horror, but like really Gothic-y themed stuff, then you're going to love it. If you haven't seen this yet, actually consider yourself lucky, because then you get to enjoy it for the first time. And go check it out, because even if you're not a Tim Burton fan, it's still a very good movie. So with that, that's really all I have to say. It's easy to talk about movies everyone has seen. Room 237, I'm out. Thank you.